Grandma, who was sitting calmly, was immediately startled by his questioned tone. Anger appeared on her face. She stood up. Jungkook, what kind of tone is this? Will you talk to us like this now? Even since the boy came to this house, both your language and your attitude has changed. Have you forgotten that? We are your elders. Forgive me, Grandma, but he is my wife, no matter how much. He came in this house, whatever by force or by my own will, but now he is my owner. I don't want anyone to treat him like a servant or abuse him. He had spoke in a great patience, trying to control his anger. Grandma's eyes were hated, but he remained silent. Jungkook had taken a step forward. Whatever work is done in the future, it should be done by employee, not from my wife. I will not compromise on the honor of my peace, of my wife. Silence fell into the room at his word. Grandpa and other elders were looking at Jungkook in surprise. Grandma's face was trembling with anger, had become a witness of his silence. Jungkook took one look at everyone and walked out of the room with quick steps. Jungkook came back to his room, seeing Taeyoung sleeping. He went toward Tae and immediately put a blanket on him, bent down, kissed his forehead, and then stepped back. Taeyoung's eyes were open. Tears started forming in his eyes again. Jungkook immediately picked up Taeyoung, made him sit on his lap, kissed Taeyoung's soft cheeks. Just be quiet. Don't cry, my child. I'm with you. I scrolled them a lot. Now don't they do anything wrong. I will never leave my child now, okay? They clung to Jungkook's chest as if they had met after centuries. Jungkook sat down on the bed, laid Tae on his chest, and ran his hand through his hair. Why don't you eat your dinner yet? Jungkook said, rubbing his nose with Tae's cute nose. They smiled and hid in Jungkook's chest and said, "Where are my clothes?" They were still a child. He didn't know how to fully comfort things, so whenever he started to get into trouble, he would have changed the subject. Jungkook loved Taeyoung's innocence and his expression. Jungkook sent a message to the guard and said, "Leave my things from the car to my room." And saying this, the guard immediately left Jungkook's thing in the room. Jungkook opened the bag and first showed Taeyoung the mobile, and then showed him the dresses. All the dresses are most expensive ones. He had bought the dresses for Taeyoung, and then he also bought the things he liked to wear. Jungkook had bought a bag full of Taeyoung's favorite things. Seeing all these things, Taeyoung put a little hand on his mouth and said, "All this is for me?" Taeyoung said, "Yeah, all this is for my child." After seeing so many things, Taeyoung hugged Jungkook and then pressed his face to Jungkook's face and said, "You're very good and also very bad, who left me and went away." Jungkook put his hand on Taeyoung's waist. "I'm sorry." Jungkook kissed Taeyoung's forehead. It was night time. Everyone had been sat in the dining hall. Grandma and rest of the family had taken their seat, but Jungkook and Taeyoung were missing. Grandma looked around and called a maid. "Where is Jungkook? And why didn't that boy come to the dining table?" "Madam, they are asking food in their room." The maid said politely. Hearing this, Grandma's face turned red. "Go and tell Taekook to come down immediately and eat at the dining table. The rules of the mansion don't change like that," she said angrily. The maid nodded her head and immediately walked toward the room. Inside the room, Taeyoung and Jungkook were seated peacefully. They had a strange sadness on his face, and Jungkook was looking at Taeyoung with loving eyes. The maid had knocked. "Sir, Madam asked you to come to the dining table and eat. Go and tell Grandma that Taeyoung and I will not come to the dining table." The food should be served in the room. This decision is mine, and there will be no compromise on it. Jungkook said seriously and closed the door. The maid went back, shaking his head in shocking manner, and went to Grandma and all this message. Grandma was already angry, become even more furious on hearing this. She slammed her hand on the table in anger. This boy is trying to keep Jungkook away from us. All this is a fact. Her mind was filled with hatred and anger. The thoughts of Taeyoung were born in Grandma's heart. Next morning, Jungkook had left for his office. As usual, they were sitting on the bed in his room, watching cartoons on his mobile. Jungkook had given Taeyoung the new mobile so that he could be happy in his own world and away from the hardship of everyone. Jungkook's grandmas, who were already bitter about Jungkook's love and Taeyoung's presence, came into the room with a storm of hatred in her heart. When she saw Taeyoung spending time on his mobile, her bond of tolerance was broke. She came to Taeyoung and snatched the mobile from Taeyoung's hand, threw it against the wall. The mobile had shattered after hitting the wall. Taeyoung looked at Grandma with frightened eyes, but before he could say anything, Grandpa slapped Taeyoung hard in his face, because the face they had hit the wall, and he screamed in pain. How dare you do it against my rule? Look at your age and status. Who told you to complain about us to Jungkook? Grandma's voice shook the wall and doors. Taeyoung, who was standing against the wall in shock, could barely speak while crying. Grandma, I didn't complain, but before they could finish, Grandma slapped him on his face again. Grandma called out of the maid. Bring him down. The maid immediately entered the room and dragged Taeyoung, who was in a state of fear and helplessness. They started screaming loudly. Please, leave me alone. But no one heard his voice. All the elders and other people in the mansion were present in the lounge. Everyone had seized the maid and pushed Taeyoung. Grandma started slapping Taeyoung in the face again. With each face, his anger grew more intense. Taeyoung's scream and sob were echoed through the mansion. And after another slap, Taeyoung's lips were slit, and blood started falling for it. Namjoon ran forward and tried to stop Grandma. But Grandpa held him by his arm and stopped him, and then Grandma slapped Taeyoung with force that he dragged and fell on the ground. His strangled body couldn't bear it any longer and became unconscious. At that very moment, Jungkook entered the mansion. He had come to get some of his file, but seeing Taeyoung unconscious on the ground and blood dripping from his lips, the storm inside Jungkook became worse. Jungkook ran to Taeyoung, picking him up in his arm. What is happening? Who did this? He shouted, but no one answered. Without wasting a moment, he picked up Taeyoung, left the mansion, and immediately put him in the car and drove to the hospital. Taeyoung's unconsciousness and the wound on his face had tore Jungkook's soul apart. Only one questions were in his heart. Why? Why did this happen to this innocent person? They had increased the speed of the car. Taeyong was in his lap,